everybody. Happy Sunday night. Father Daryl is going to be joining us tonight. So he's from Canada. He will not sound like me. And we're going to talk about a lot of fun things. So if you've never met Father Daryl, you don't know who he is, hang tight because he's very cool. So he and I met, when was that? Last fall, I think. I happened to be home for kind of in between book tour stops. And I got a phone call from Liv Harrison, and she said, "Hey, Kathryn, we need a place to go eat barbecue. There's this priest in town from Canada." And I said, well, hold on, let me get Father Daryl in here. I told her where to go, and then I hung up the phone and went, why am I not going? So,
Hey, hello.
I was just telling everyone about our providential meeting at barbecue joint.
Oh, yes. That was pretty wild. That was awesome.
I know.
I got a dog who wants my attention, apparently.
Is that Chloe?
That's Chloe. She's the pastor of the parish here.
Saint Chloe? Is that what you call her sometimes?
She runs my life, so she's got to run everything here. So, yeah, totally.
So what kind of dog is she?
She is a soft-coated Wheaton Terrier.
Oh, and she loves it.
She totally
right on cue. I loved it.
It's funny. She can tell I'm talking to somebody, and she wants in.
She can be in the shot. She's cute enough.
Coming up. No, she's not coming up.
No,
you know what she really wants. I'll have to give her one of these.
Food. Always. Yeah. It's like teenagers.
Totally. Here, this is a good Texas trick. Chloe, touchdown. There we go. Cheers for a touchdown. There you go.
Hey, you'll appreciate this. Okay, so someone commented on the original post and said, "Oh, you never see someone like Star Trek in the red shirt." And my first thought was, red shirt? Who got red shirted for football? Like that's where I went. So tell me, so what's the scoop on this? I need to know.
So red shirt though, in the next generation, red shirt is command, not security.
Okay.
So it's actually, you want to be a red shirt in the
Okay, this is good.
This is very, very important.
So all this time I thought Lamar Burton was the Reading Rainbow guy. And then I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, he was like the original with William Shatner and the whole crew. Like he was the guy, right? They were all together. Is that right?
Yeah, LeVar Burton. He was on the Next Generation. He was with like Patrick Stewart. And
Patrick Stewart. Yeah. That's right.
So and he had that little
with the thing, the glass
like
thing or whatever.
Clip, I think basically that they modified. Spare no expense on props.
I thought his only gig was Reading Rainbow. So I've been duly corrected. Now I know that originally Star Trek, then Reading Rainbow. So that's good to know. So you should have seen me. I was cramming last night. I was like scrolling through like the 25 things you need to know about Star Trek. And so I was going through and I had no idea like that there was the series and then there were movies, but unlike like Star Wars where you have to watch them chronologically for the story to make sense, they were like, nah, you can just drop in anytime.
For the most part. Yeah, for the most part. There are some that tie together and whatever, but yeah.
So if you had to name, like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite, like,
oh boy.
I know.
So, I mean, I think there have been over 700 episodes in the whole franchise. Like between all the series.
Yeah.
But as far as movies go, for me, it's a tie. And this is going to be controversial to any Star Trek fans, so this is great. Send me the hate mail. Basically, I would say either Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which came out in 1982, or Star Trek First Contact that came out in 1996. Okay. Those two would be, the second one was Next Generation, the first one was the original cast.
I feel good because I've heard of both of those. I know, so I can only do it with my left hand. I can't, I can sort of do it. I guess I can do it with both.
Left hand, I do struggle because I'm right-handed, but.
Isn't that weird? And I'm right-handed, but left hand's no problem for me. It's a talent.
Right about now, it's great to be a Vulcan because you don't have to handshake or anything. So
you can just do the sign.
Just do that.
So I was reading up a little bit about CCO. So, so for those people that don't know what CCO is, so you kind of, I guess, akin it to like Focus. So Focus stands for Fellowship of Catholic University Students, which is like college campus missionaries who go on campuses and encourage people to learn about Jesus. So what Like, what is CCO? I'm fascinated to know about this.
Basically that.
Yeah?
It stands for Catholic Christian Outreach, and it
Okay.
started actually here in Saskatoon, the city I'm in right now, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
So that's like the
Started
central
here.
part of Canada, right?
Yeah, basically, if you take the border between Montana and North Dakota and go
Okay.
straight north for about, I don't know, 5.5, 6 hours, you meet us.
I'm digging your accent, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. Keep going. It's good. It's good. It's so Canadian.
Yeah, totally. So that might have been intentional.
That's
So
okay.
basically, Catholic Christian Outreach, CCO, it's a university ministry, just very much like Focus, started basically completely independently of Focus. Like the two organizations, I don't think they knew each other existed for years.
Really?
CCO started here in Saskatoon in 1988. It's since spread across the country, and I mean, it had a huge effect on my own faith journey, my own life in university. I mean, I got very involved as a
Did you
student.
get connected to them like prior to you going to university, or was it while you were there?
I got connected while I was there during my first
Okay.
year. My first year was a little bit of a wilder year, but as it turns out, the residence I was staying at, the guy next door to me was super involved, and one day he invited me to come out, and well, I guess this is part of the result. So it worked out
Is
pretty
a good
well.
thing. So
Worked
you
out pretty
what
well.
but you're like you're super smart. Like I'm an ag major. I did not have like you're like engineering, right? Was that your undergrad?
Yes. Yes, electrical engineering, computer science. Now you're an ag major. That's interesting. Is there a rivalry? You went to A&M?
I did.
Is there a rivalry between agriculture and engineering there? Because in this university, it
Mm.
is a massive rivalry.
So the A and the M used to stand for agricultural and mechanical.
Oh, okay.
Now it's just A and M. So we're like in the
Okay.
United States we would call that like the land grant university. So we were like the research institution. So
Okay.
all
Okay.
the AgriLife Extension Service is there, and then I mean University of Texas does have engineering, but A&M would humbly say that they're the better university. But they definitely started out with both engineers and agriculture. And
Yeah.
those are probably the two biggest, and probably now business would probably be the three biggest
Okay.
schools. But it's a little bit easier to get into the College of Agriculture. We're a little more familial over there than they are over in the College of Engineering. But it's just by nature. I think that's just the nature of the study. Like that's part of it. But yeah,
Okay.
so engineering, I had nothing to do with that. I waited till my last semester of college to take math, and that was a bad idea. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. I could have used you, but yeah. So okay, so you're an engineering major. You get
Yes.
connected to CCO your freshman year, kind of toward the end.
Yeah, my first year, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I did. It was a 5-year program I was in, so I was involved
Okay.
the whole way through. When I finished with them, I felt that they'd given me so much that I wanted to give a year back, and so
Oh wow.
I did a volunteer year, raised a very small amount of money. I don't know how I lived, but anyway, raised a very small amount of money. Worked. The head office used to be here in Saskatoon, so I basically was the IT guy for a year. For
Oh
CCO
my
here
gosh.
in the city, and then of course I'm working for a Catholic organization. I got time to think. Scary, dangerous combination because the year after that I'm in seminary. So,
Maybe not. Maybe providential,
oh,
right?
it's yeah, totally,
So
yeah, yeah.
that is fascinating. I mean, you must be using a ton of that right now. I mean, I know that you've been like, you're definitely into the website, podcast, like all that stuff. Like you were cool before it was cool to be cool. So good job. But now that like all this live streaming and technology, like I know some parishes are really flourishing, and some are like calling up their parishioners saying, if you have expertise, get your
Right.
honey up here. So I mean, let's talk a little bit about like technology in the church.
Sure, sure.
Is that an oxymoron? Like, can
Not
we
at all.
say?
Not at
So
all.
yeah, yeah. I
I think
mean,
it's crucial. Yeah.
so what? I mean, what is the church doing right? Like, what are we doing well, and where do we have room to grow when it comes to technology and how we evangelize? Big
That's a
question. Sorry.
really well. That's a great question because I mean, like a good chunk of the history of the church was basically communicating. I mean, that was the church was at the forefront of like the printing press, and you
Yeah.
think of someone like Saint Maximilian Kolbe, and he's getting into printing magazines to help spread the faith and so on. And one of the first big television stars was a guy by the name of Bishop Fulton Sheen, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He's kind of a
So
big deal.
kind of a big deal. I mean, I've even heard of him, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, the church, books, everything. So the church was pretty high up on communication, but communication's moved so quickly the last few decades. I think in some ways we probably got some catch up to do. When I look at what other congregations, other religious organizations are doing, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of work to do, but I think we're learning. I think this time is probably kicking a lot of us, and myself included, in high gear into learning a lot. I didn't know much about live
feel like
streaming before this.
we got like to the edge of the cliff and all this happened and everyone just got shoved over the edge. Like, you didn't want to learn about it. Well, guess what? Now you are. And that's a good thing, because sometimes I think we fear like getting involved or doing it because we think we're going to screw it up. We're not going to do it right, or we could do it better. And so that fear holds us back. And this like took away the fear because people wanted to serve their parish communities. And then they were like, all right, well, I guess we'll figure it out. And the good news is that people aren't leaving. They're coming, like they're yearning to see that. So that's been a really cool thing. As a matter of fact, I told the kids, I was like, all right, so next Sunday, so we went to mass this morning at 10, and I said, oh, Father Daryl's mass was at, I think it would have been 11 our time. And they were like, why didn't we go to that mass? So I said, okay, so everyone can sleep in and we'll do your mass next weekend. Okay. So we're looking forward to that. But so how did a Canadian get connected to all these Americans?
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Basically, I would say a lot of it started about 8 years ago. We had a guy by the name of Lino Rulli come up to my diocese to speak to our priest. We did a session on communications because that was a topic we were interested in hearing about. And several of us subscribed to this thing called Sirius Radio.
little radio station.
You might have heard of, I guess it's now Sirius XM. But anyway, we invited him to come up and speak, and he came. And I became friends with him and basically started doing pilgrimages, met Jen Fullweiler through that, and a bunch of people. So,
and you've been on pilgrimage before with them, right?
Yeah.
And you lived to tell about it?
Yeah. They were, I'd say, some of the most life-changing experiences I've had, to be honest.
So where all have you been on pilgrimage?
We've been to Italy and the Holy Land mainly.
Okay.
So if you had supposed to be Poland, but I don't know.
I know I'm supposed to be in France in October. I mean, we'll see what God has to say. I know what I would like for him to say. We'll see what he says.
Right.
So what parts of Italy have you been to?
Mainly Rome, but we did the one of the trips we did was like this whirlwind. You don't know where you're staying from night to night. It was like Rome, Florence, Turin. The Shroud of Turin was out, so that's why we went to Turin.
So northern Italy. Okay.
And Milan, so we kind of traveled north. Yeah.
So Anne just commented, what's GBYB? What does that stand for? I should know that, right?
God bless you, brother. So that was my first trip with Lino and Gus Lloyd to the Holy Land. So it was a combination a trip to Israel, and that's what I'd say that's probably the most profound trip, one of the most profound experiences I've ever had.
That is absolutely on my list. I mean, when you grow up reading scripture like I did, and you read about all these places, and then I see people over there and they share where they are, and I'm moved just seeing it through a screen or seeing it, in a photograph, and I think I would probably be the one who's weeping, and people be like, Kathryn, we got to go. Can't stay here all day. I mean, I can see how. We've been to places in Rome that were incredibly moving for me. Same thing in France and Spain and Portugal, that they were incredibly moving. So I know to be in that place would be profound. So
saying mass at the tomb.
What do you do?
Somehow I held it together. I don't know how. That must have been. I think that was a grace in itself that he held it together at that one. But I do think so. Let's chat a little bit about pilgrimages, because I think, there's vacations, and I'll call those are without children. Then there's trips, and those are with kids. And then there are pilgrimages. And pilgrimages, I think sometimes people think you have to go to another country or another state or another province, in y'all's case, to be on pilgrimage. But we went on a barbecue pilgrimage. It was very spiritual. It was also highly delicious. But I think there's ways to include Jesus in a lot of those places. So if we were to come to, let's just say I make a road trip, that'd be a heck of a road trip, but we're known for those.
So let's just say we make a road trip to Saskatchewan. What could we see in Saskatchewan that you think would be pilgrimage worthy, that you think might help people encounter Christ?
We've got a few, mostly in rural areas, but there are a few Marian shrines. It's not like we haven't had like apparitions and that kind of stuff, but they're just these really nice shrines that the local people set up. Some cases 100 years ago. People moved over to this part of the world and wanted to honor Mary, and so they set up these pilgrimages, these sites, and they still, well, maybe not this summer, but in a lot of summers they still attract some fairly sizable groups to them for the different pilgrimages. So yeah.
So if you're going to come to Canada, you need to tell me about the weather situation. So let's talk about that. Like, am I going to freeze? What months will I freeze, and what months will I feel at home?
Well, today it was, I don't know what Fahrenheit is. It got up to 17 Celsius. Hey Siri, convert 17 Celsius to Fahrenheit. 62.6.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, I can do that.
I don't know.
So today,
beautiful today. Yeah.
If I could have jumped on a plane, I could have just come up and interviewed you there, and we could have just done it there.
Now, 2 weeks ago, it was frigid. So
no, today here it was. I think we were 92, so that would be like close to maybe in the 30s for you guys.
That'd be in the 30s. Yeah.
Yeah, warm. Definitely warm. Too much.
Wow.
So if you're going to come to Texas, which I know you've been here, were you here in the fall, October?
It was
November?
in the fall. It was October. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I brought cold weather with me because I think it was unseasonably cold.
Yes.
So blame me.
No, I do remember that. I was like cranking the heat. As a matter of fact, I think one time I posted something. I mean, I had my inside thermostat to 78 in the van, and Father David Fire was like 78, and I'm like, listen, I'm a Texas girl, I like things warm. And he's like, you're crazy. So I do appreciate hot weather a lot. But all right, so if I'm going to come to Canada, now would be probably summertime would probably be a good time for a Texan.
July is probably our best weather month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we spent our honeymoon in British Columbia. So we were in Vancouver, Whistler, and Victoria. And then I was in, I guess it would be is Toronto in Ontario?
Yes.
Okay, so I was in Ontario for World Youth Day back in 2002.
Really?
Yes. Were you there?
So was I. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Us and a million other people. Were you there the night that they had all the storms?
We lucked out. We camped out on the runway because World Youth Day 2002 was it was in an old airfield, and I know a lot of people were on the grass and they got mud. We were on the runway, and we were on like a high part of the runway. There's a group of pilgrims next to us. We're on a dip in the runway. They got flooded out too. We lucked out.
We happened to be, we brought 700 teenagers from Indiana. So that's when I was living in Indiana. So we drove across through Pennsylvania and then on up into Toronto. Yeah. And when we got there, there was like this little area, and there was one kid standing there, and he's like, I'm saving this for Spain. And we looked at him, 700 of us, and we were like, take a hike, dude. So we kicked him out. And as Providence would have it, that was right along the route for Pope John Paul. And so when he came by, we were feet from him, all of our kids. It was, I took the mud and all the stuff because we were right there. It was so powerful, but it was also so crazy because that night before he came was when like tornado warnings and like all this stuff started rolling in. And I just remember one of the priests that was with us is like, if anybody needs to know what purgatory's like, this is it. But it was so moving. I loved, and Toronto was so beautiful. I mean, that was it would have been probably late July. And we had just seen the Pope in June in Rome, and really, really hard to understand. And then when he delivered the Mass and the homily in English, it was like I couldn't even recognize him. It was beautiful. I mean, tears, the whole thing. It was one of the rare times that I had heard him say Mass in English, and it was awesome. So moving. So were you a seminarian in 2002?
I was just about to enter seminary. So I was just finishing my year of working with CCO. So I was co-leading a group there were 95 of us, I think.
Wow.
CCO students and whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was complicated. I'm so glad I was there.
Yes.
I don't have a huge desire to do another one, but I'm so glad I was there.
I know. I was going to say, have you been to another one since then?
No,
No.
no,
That's a
no.
lot. Now that I'm thinking about like how many people were crammed into a very small space, it sort of makes me have heart palpitations right now. But we haven't been to a World Youth Day since then. Well, I haven't really been involved in youth ministry until really the last couple of years. So
Okay.
now we're kind of re-engaged again. But that's a pretty powerful experience. I know. Is the next one? Where's the next one?
I
Do you
think they
remember?
just announced it's being put off a year.
Okay, because it was just
Uh,
in Panama.
yeah, yeah, I think so. It was like a winter one, or well,
Okay.
winter for us. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So
yeah.
when are you coming back to Texas? That's the big question. When are you coming back here?
Whenever I can, I
Whenever, got it?
guess. I mean,
Fly,
definitely
barring
for the
flies.
eclipse, right? Because the next big eclipse, I think Texas, I think even Austin has it's like a total eclipse there, like
Oh,
in
really?
2024 or whatever it is. So
Okay.
that's a definite yes.
Okay. So if you
Yeah,
come, here's the deal. So
yes.
in way West Texas, so like if you're looking at Texas, it's the little arm that sticks over into New Mexico. So like
Okay,
where El Paso is. So on the way to El Paso, kind of in along our border for Mexico, is a teeny tiny little place called Big Bend. It's actually massive. It's huge. But at the end of Big Bend is Fort Davis Mountains, and connected to that is the McDonald Observatory. And there's no light pollution out there. I mean, you get out there, they have a big star party in the summertime, and they have these massively huge telescopes, and you can go around.
yeah.
But we were there when they had, just before they had the last eclipse. So they were telling us all about it. It was super cool. So that is where you want to be
Wow.
in
Yeah,
West
that's awesome.
Texas.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, just in case um, you need a good place to go in Texas. So
Many good places to go in Texas. I love Texas.
there are
Fantastic.
so many good places. So you've been to Austin?
Been to Austin, Dallas, and Houston, I guess, and College Station.
Oh,
So I
well
guess
then
just kind of in that little area there, I
so
guess.
you've been to all the great places, except I would say the only other place would be the very top part, the Texas Panhandle.
Okay.
Beautiful hiking, and just like the sun goes
Yeah.
down and you can see every star in the sky. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's where I grew up, but
Cool.
it's good stuff. So you came from a big family, is that right? So did y'all
I
take road
did.
trips?
We not terribly often. It was
No.
complicated. Like go see grandma or something, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I'm the oldest of seven,
So
so
you're the
we'd load up.
oldest. This is why
We
we get
not
along.
the most mature, but I am the oldest. The oldest of seven, and yeah, so we'd load up in our 9-passenger Suburban and hit
Love
the
it.
road.
That's awesome. So how many
Yeah,
boys and how many girls?
we outnumber slightly. There's 4 boys, three
So y'all
girls.
broke the tie. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I know
It's a
my
in a family like that. It's a competition. Like it totally.
Yeah, so when I was pregnant with number six, of course the
Okay.
boys we were 3-2. And so they were
Okay.
lobbying very hard for a boy until they found out that if we had a girl, that the room situations would be like they would stay in their current state, which they really liked. So then they were on team girl. So it all worked
Oh
out.
my gosh.
But there's definitely still a competition because it's always like we always side up, like it's the boys and the girls, and then we're even. We're always locked. We have no one to break the tie. So it gets a little tricky. We have to recruit another family member if we're going to break the
Yeah.
tie.
Yeah. See which one gets married first, and then the other.
That's right. Yes.
But then the
Yes.
opposite will break the tie, right? So that'll be
But then
fascinating.
when they start having kids, so that's when you start to get,
That'll do it. Yeah.
but then grandma and grandpa are always going to be amazing.
Right. Right. Right.
So when did you start this music? Like when, because so for the people that don't know, like when I posted the original, like, hey, ask Father Daryl questions, there's this picture of all these Father Daryls. And I was like, there's only one that's going to be joining us. So when did you start doing that? Because let me just tell you, those videos are phenomenal. I
Well,
love
thank
them.
you.
I
Thank
love
you.
them.
Thank you. You know, I will say this, and partly, I mean, she released a new book this week, but Jen Fulwiler actually had a big part to play in that, and she didn't even
Oh,
realize it at the time. So way back when I was like in high school growing up, my parents got this, I think they paid $30 for it, a video camera, like one of these big massive things where the camera is detached from the VCR. Remember
ooh,
those?
yeah, I do.
Like it had
Very
a
fancy.
portable
Yes.
VCR, right?
Yes.
And but I was hooked. I mean, I was hooked, and it became a thing. I just wanted to make videos and just produce stuff for people to watch and whatever. And I mean, I kind of sort of continued that a bit into seminary and a bit as a priest. But as time went on, especially when I moved to the city where I am now, I've got a fairly big parish. We've got about 2,000 families in this parish area, and a lot going on. I didn't have time, and frankly felt a little guilty pursuing that interest.
Yeah.
Until Jen's latest, the book One Beautiful Dream came out, and she talked in there about Your Blue Flame, which is what her new book is all about, and it lit a fire under me. And so I started to get back into it, and music's always been an interest of mine too, so just kind of merging the two together. But yeah.
I think you bring up a good point. I think sometimes we feel guilty because of our current vocation. Yours happens to be priesthood, mine's motherhood and married life, that sometimes we feel guilty about pursuing the things that God has bestowed, the gifts that he's given us. And what do those look like in different seasons of our life? You know, even though you're a priest, your priesthood will not be the same the whole time that you're a priest. You're going to go through seasons just like we will. And what a good reminder that we can use them in different ways. But isn't it so awesome when God uses someone or something to remind you of your gift, and then to like give you the shove off the cliff and say, you need to use that. Why are you don't put it under the bushel basket, man. Exactly. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and it's brought me so much. Like, you know, I'm glad people are enjoying it, but I just enjoy making them too. Like it feels good to create, right? Well, thank you.
So you have I know you have a fancy YouTube channel, which now that I'm paying attention to YouTube, I love it. But yeah, they're so good, and I love that. They're so like, I love the last one that you did where you had all those people like from everywhere sing, and it was so magnificent. I loved it. It was, so if you don't know what we're talking about, go to YouTube, find, is it Saska Priest or is it Father Daryl Millett?
I think it's Father Daryl Millett.
Okay.
My website is Saska Priest, but
you'll find.
You'll find it.
Google it. Anyway, so you'll find him on YouTube, and he has these great videos. They are beautiful. I mean, you have your podcast too and your homilies, but the music, you have a gift. So thank you.
Thank you.
I can sing in my van, and I'm excellent, but and I do sing at church, but just not in the choir. You don't need me singing in the choir. I'm a lector. I'll do that. I love that part. We all have our gifts. Mine is not singing.
It was amazing, that last one, though, because I had people submit things, and they told me, oh, I'm not much of a singer, but he'll submit something. When he put it all together, it just blends so beautifully.
And you had musicians on there too? I mean, you had
I was blown away by what, there are people who sent me stuff. I had no idea they played an instrument, you know.
Do you play an instrument?
Piano.
Piano, okay.
Piano. Yeah.
I play piano too.
Yeah.
This is good to know.
So there we go. We got to get, next time we do one of these.
It's been a while. I have my grandmother's old, so she taught piano. This is my great grandmother. So it's over 100 years old in our house. So I have the piano that she taught kids on.
Wow.
And I just can't bring myself, like, it's sort of in tune, but I don't know if I can ever get rid of it just because it's got such sweet memories of her. But I love how you use your gifts. I think it's important for people to remember that just because you choose a specific vocation doesn't mean that you have to leave all your gifts at the door. Right. Just because you serve Jesus as a priest, you still have some really cool, beautiful things that God is asking of you, still evangelizing and still sharing the good news of Jesus, but using different talents and ways to connect people. So thank you for sharing your gift, Father Daryl.
Thank you, Kathryn. And Anne says outside in the snow. I did do we got snow last September, and so to kind of mock the snow, I went out in my shorts and sandals and played "O Canada" in the snow.
No. Nope. Kathryn does snow on TV. I'll watch you on Instagram.
The CBC picked that one up, though. I couldn't believe it.
What?
The
Did
CBC,
they really?
Yeah. I guess I was on TV or whatever.
Look at you. I love it. The viral priest. This is so great. This is so great. So before we end, I have to ask you, what's one way that we can pray for you?
Thank you so much. You know, I would say, if it's for me personally, more for my thoughts are with my parishioners. You know, I know a lot of struggling in different ways, a lot of elderly parishioners who are shut in, and we're trying our best to reach out to them, but to just keep them in your prayer. This time's tough for everybody. But
sure, but you feel that in a different way as their pastor. So.
Sure, yeah.
And we'll pray for you personally too.
Thank you.
You
Thank
don't
you.
you don't
Appreciate
get
that.
you don't get off the prayer chain. I get to put you on there. So
Well, thank you, Kathryn.
would would you mind ending us with a blessing?
Sure. And blessed are you, Lord God, King of all creation. We praise you, we bless you for all times, for all seasons. Even now, as you're calling us to serve you in new ways, to discern how you are working in the world in all ways. We ask that you would bless all of those watching, bless Kathryn and her family, and draw us all closer and closer to your shepherd's heart. We pray for God's blessing, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Or amen, as we say in fake America.
And amen is what we say here. Um, Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time tonight. And our prayers are with Canada, specifically your parish, as you guys weather this fun, new, weird, crazy adventure that we're all on. But you're a gift to the world. And I'm so glad that Liv called me that night and asked where to go to eat barbecue. And the Southerner in me couldn't let you eat it alone. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for all that you do for the church and for Jesus. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thank you
Of
so much.
course. All right. I'll see you when you come to Texas. I'll take you out to West Texas. All right.
Live long and prosper, eh?
Bye.